meeting because
Now I'm recording.
Ted Gavin is participating remotely in today's meeting because his physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. Mr. Gavin is participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible with each other. As a result of Mr. Gavin's remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by members today shall be by roll call vote. And next, those present from the Steamship Authority Board are myself, Peter Jeffrey, Falmouth Board Member and Chair, Rob Rainey, Nantucket Board Member and Secretary, and Bob Jones, the Hyannis Barnstable Member. And as we said, Ted Gavin from Martha's Vineyard is participating remotely. Alex, before we go into the next item, did you want to introduce the Steamship Authority members present?
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to the Nantucket Hotel and Mark Snyder for hosting us. We really appreciate it. I have with me is Terry Keneally, our solicitor, our chief counsel, Mark Amundsen, our COO, Mark Rozum, our controller, treasurer, and Sean Driscoll is our director of communications. And then hiding out in the audience, we have Caroline Muldoon, our grants administrator. Oh God, now I'm completely blanking on her name. Ian is one of our media team. Stephen Coleman, director of IT, and Janice Kennefic is our director of HR.
All right, moving into our first agenda item, the approval of the minutes of the May 19th, 2026 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Jones, second.
All right, any discussion? All right, roll call vote starting with Mr. Gavin.
Gavin, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye. Rainey, aye.
Minutes are approved. Next, we were going to have the Port Council's report. Unfortunately, neither the chair of the council, Gordon Carr, or the vice chair, Nat Lowell, are able to join us today. Nat did call me, and we just said that in particular, in terms of the Port Council's meeting, that the discussion on dry docking costs was particularly helpful at their meeting, and that it'll be presented today to us by Zach, as well as the cost of service analysis, to pay particular attention to that as the board and Port Council move forward with determining what rates will be for the next year. With that, we'll move to the Treasurer's Comptroller's report.
Good morning, everyone. So we get the business summary for the month of April.
Sorry, hang on. Sorry, 1 second. There we go.
Okay, so for the month of April, we had $11,177,000 of operating revenue, which exceeded budget by just over $117,000. We had other income of $1.6 million, exceeded budget by $296,000. That's really the timing of grant revenue that earlier in the year we were lagging behind. We're still a little bit lagging behind year to date, but through the month of May, I expect that to be caught up. Putting this together, we had total revenue of just over $12.8 million for the month, which exceeded budget by $413,000. Operating expenses of $13,365,000, exceeded budget by $1.1 million. That's also timing associated with dry dock expenses and maintenance expenses, as we talked earlier in the year. Putting this together, we had a net operating loss of $724,000 for the month of April, which was $732,000 worse than budget. Year to date, though, we have a net operating loss of $16,915,000. That's below budget by $81,000, so we're pretty close to on pace to where we should be for budget right now. For the revenue side, for the month of April, the majority of the categories were up, with the exception of passenger revenue and miscellaneous voyage, which is really driven by the passenger revenue. But altogether, we're up 1.1% for the month, or $117,000. Year to date, we are lagging by $800,000, or 2.6%. A lot of this is due to some of the timing and the weather early in the year. A good test will be how the first couple of weeks of June went when we actually had weather that we can have fair comparisons for travel. On the expense side, we're over budget by 1.1 million. The big driver there is on the maintenance expense, over budget by 432,000. This was timing for the expenses on the MV dry dock, offset by some operating expenses on the land side. Fuel costs is a concern, but we are hedged through 2026. Year to date, we are budgeted for $2.78, and it's coming in at $2.86. But we are under budget by 284,000 year to date. Fortunately, we have not had to put any fuel surcharges in because of our hedges. Year to date, we received about $1.3 million back in hedge refunds for basically it's insurance to cap our fuel cost. So year to date, we are down by budget by 1.9 million of 3.8%. You can see the big driver there is in the maintenance expense, which is also relating to the grant revenue. We can't realize the grant revenue until we realize the actual corresponding expense.
Mark, can I just at this point,
Yep.
how much of that $1.9 million would be estimated covered by grant revenue?
You're probably looking at about 1.4 million, 80% of 1.4 million is about 1.2 million.
Thank you.
I can get your firm number, that's just an estimate off the top of my head. Okay. Cash balances, operation funds was a little bit behind budget as far as the month of April, but if you look at the sinking funds, we've made transfers earlier in the year than anticipated, and that's a real timing issue. So if you look at the net aggregate of our cash balances, we are ahead of budget. Next slide this is something important looking forward, is putting this out there, is what do our advanced bookings look like this year to compare to last year. So for the deck space, which is what we call occupancy, on the Vineyard route, we're up 2.2%, looking forward to October 15th, and on the Nantucket route, we're up 2.3% compared to last year. And that's as of June 9th, from 26 to 25. And then on the next slide is the quantity of vehicle reservations. The Vineyard is up 1.4%, and the Nantucket route is up 0.5%. Given an update for the month of May, passengers down 3.2%, or just under 8,700 passengers. The Nantucket fast ferry was down 16.2%, but 80% of that's related to the 4 days it was out of service. So if it was in service, we would have been we would have actually been up on the Nantucket route for passengers for the month of May if we looked at what it historically carried the week before and the week after. Vehicles carried for the month of May, the Vineyard route was up just under 900 vehicles, 1.8%. Nantucket route was up 5.2%, or just over 600 vehicles. Year to date, the Vineyard's down just over 7,100 vehicles. Nantucket's up 1,200 vehicles, and year to date we're down 2.6%. But to put that in comparison, when we looked at as of April 30th, we were down 4.3%, so we're closing that gap. And so with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions anyone has.
Any questions from the board? All right, seeing none.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the cost of service. This is something we do every year. In the calendar, it's normally done on the Nantucket Island. So for the first slide, we're looking at what the occupancy was this year compared to last year. On the Vineyard route, we're down slightly. We went from 81.2% to 79.6%, but we did have more capacity in the system with the introduction of new vessels on the run. On the Nantucket route, we're down slightly from 85.4 to 84%. And again, this is with the mix of vehicles where you can look on the Nantucket run, the actual capacity was up 4.4%. So we did carry more spaces on the Nantucket run, but we also had more capacity to carry those. So then on the next slide, we do a breakdown of what vehicles were actually traveling. On the Vineyard route, we saw the standard fare vehicles were down 3.7%, while the excursion vehicles were up 3.2%. Overall, passenger vehicles were down 0.8%. On the Nantucket route, standard fare were up 0.5%, excursions were up 12.7%, And overall, on the Nantucket route, we're up 5% for passenger vehicles compared to the year before. Freight vehicles carried, we have each category of size of trucks and showing the comparison, but on the Vineyard route, we're up 0.3%, and on the Nantucket route, we're up 0.1%. Big thing on this slide is that the size of the trucks really hasn't changed. We've gone from 2.84 car equivalent units to 2.86, and on the Nantucket route, we actually decreased the average size of a truck that carried. So these are virtually the same for the size of the trucks that are being transported to each island. So on the cost of service, what we do is we take our direct costs for each route, then we take our allocated indirect costs, less our indirect revenue offset of that, like interest income, grant income for the revenue. Then that gives us what our cost is. We divide it by the number of trips we carry, and that gives us our cost per trip. One of the methodologies we changed this year is previously the allocation of the Reservation Bureau and the IT was based on car transactions, where the Nantucket run has fast ferry transactions, which is the same amount of work being done in a transaction. So we included the fast ferry reservations in with the Nantucket and vehicle reservations to allocate those costs. And it roughly equated to about a $3 million swing from the Vineyard side to the Nantucket side. So that's why we're seeing some of the increase in percentages on the cost of service. So in here, we can see how the vehicles did increase, but overall, the cost of service of both islands increased by 12% last year. And this is really due to, we have payroll costs, both on the land side and the maintenance side. We have health and welfare costs, and we have depreciation. Those are the big drivers that increased those costs last year. On this slide, we can see what the cost of service per vehicle is. So the standard fare vehicles are covering 155% or 144% on the Vineyard route. On the Nantucket route, it's pretty similar, but we can see where the excursion rates are only covering 27 and 39% and 30 and 37% on the Vineyard route. So it's roughly a 4 to 5 to 1 ratio on the cost of service between a standard fare vehicle and an excursion fare vehicle.
And just as a reminder from the two slides before, right, that our only growth area in terms of carrying cars is with the excursion fare. That's growing at around 3 to 4%, and we're losing the number of cars we're carrying at the standard.
Yeah, yes, on the Vineyard route, yes, the Nantucket had slight growth on the standard, but significant growth in the excursion. So our biggest growth is a loss leader, as they would say. But overall, the average passenger vehicle does cover the cost of service. And here's the breakdown on the freight vehicles. And the Nantucket route this year skewed a little bit because of the reallocation of the cost that was just mentioned before with the reservation and the IT side. This is a slide that's showing the excursion travel on the Vineyard route. This really hasn't changed from last year. So 2 years of data, so it's not, just make sure nothing was out of line. So on the Vineyard route, 67% of the people who use the excursion fare reservations travel 12 times or less, and they account for 35% of all the excursion rate usage. At 24 times or less, twice a month, that number jumps up to 91%, and they account for 72% of the reservations, which means 9% of the people using the excursion rate account for 28% of the usage on the excursion fare. And these were similar to last year. On the Nantucket route, 83% of the people use it 6 times or less, and they account for 56% of all the usage. And once a month or less, it comes down to 97%, or the majority of the Nantucket residents use it 1 month or less, and they account for 88%. So 3% of the people use 12% of the excursion fares on the Nantucket side. So one of the items that we discussed last year is looking to address some of the excursion fare is to look at maybe putting tiers in that your first 12 is a certain discount, your second tier is another discount, and after that, it would go to standard fare. So we're going to put some analysis together, bring it back to the board now that we know what the ADIA system can do and can't do. We can look at unbundling the passengers and giving a straight discount of everything in your cart. So if you have one person, you pay for one person, or if you have one person with 3 kids, you get a discount on that. as compared to the current excursion is 2 and 2. So we'll do a deep depth analysis and looking at this. But looking at a forecast, assuming all travel patterns stay the same for 24 and 25 going forward, by just eliminating that number above 24, that's about $1 million of revenue that would be realized if traffic patterns stay the same in the Vineyard Run. So that's what I have for the cost of service, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions or comments from the board? I have several, but I'll defer for everyone else first. Oh, all right. I guess one thing, it would be helpful, I think, next time we see this, is to kind of see some of that historic data too, as to the usage that you were talking about of the percentage of who's using the excursion fare, the 24 or more trips, how that has changed over time. I also would like to see data as to what would the excursion fare be today if it wasn't exempt from past fare raises, percentage-wise, that we've done in the past for other fare categories, and what that cost of service would be today, and what would be the average, what would that fare be today? And then I think it might be helpful too to see what that cost of service, not in the last 2 years, have been, but since we've introduced the excursion fare, what was the cost of service variance at the time of the introduction, if we have that data still, at the time of introduction of the excursion fare, and how that has changed over time, or at least over the last 20 years, if possible.
Yep, so back in give me 1 second, 2011.
You have to answer it now.
Okay, so it's in the full packet?
Yeah.
From 2011 on for each year.
I just think it would be helpful to have a discussion of that data maybe at our next meeting.
Sure, absolutely.
Anyone else? Obviously, we'll have some really great data as we explore a world with inflation when we're talking about fares. All right. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Alex, I guess you're up. General Manager report.
General Manager report. So thank you, Peter. I'm pleased. I've passed my 5-month mark. I'm looking forward to my 6-month evaluation next month from the board and the Port Council. I'll be submitting a self-evaluation ahead of that, so give you guys a cheat sheet. It's been an exciting 5 months, really eye-opening, very fulfilling. I've got to spend time with a lot of different islands, a lot of different people. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. We're having a community meeting in Woods Hole. You're all invited. I know it's a hike to get there from here, but we're having a community meeting tomorrow in Woods Hole. Starts at 6 p.m. and the presentation starts at 6:30. For today's general manager presentation, we've got a couple agenda items that we've added in. Peter and I had an opportunity to go down to D.C. last week and meet with a bunch of legislative offices and the Department of Transportation. And while we're there, we realized that we haven't really done a presentation on what our lobbying efforts have been down in Washington or up in Beacon Hill. So today we have our advocates from DC and our advocates from Beacon Hill are going to do a presentation. In addition to that, we have Caroline Muldoon, who's our grants administrator. She's going to do a presentation about where we stand on grants, what we've been doing, what we're planning on doing. So I'm excited to add those to our agenda, and we're hoping to do that at least quarterly, depending on what's going on in Beacon Hill and down DC. I already talked about in the community meeting, a couple of things that we're going to be talking about there is ridership and usage going through, what the traffic's like going through Woods Hole, talking about the completed projects. We're going to talk about our Woods Hole terminal, which we got the occupancy permit for last week. We're looking to open that up next week. We still got a punch list of stuff, but Mark Emerson will talk about that. We're going to talk about our new board committees, the Governance Committee and the Capital Project Steering Committee, both of which are going to start meeting next month. We're excited about that. There's a bunch of topics that are of particular interest to Woods Hole, the 2027 operating schedule, Woods Hole Road congestion, staging, parking lot upgrades, what we're doing, phase 3 down the terminal, and of course New Bedford service, what we're working on there. I also want to mention we've done some employee appreciation events. We've done 3 so far. one at Woods Hole, one in Hyannis, and one at Fairhaven at our maintenance yard, and those have gone over really well. It's great to see employees and staff sitting down, enjoying a meal together, laughing, joking, telling stories. One thing I do want to mention also is that in April, we got a letter from the state auditor, and they're doing their regular audit of us. They do these about every 3 years. It's been 4 years since our last state audit, so we're not surprised by this. A couple of the areas that they've intended to focus on is our compliance with the enabling legislation and bylaws regarding the composition, appointment, and terms of board membership, the authority's procurement process, the handling of employee settlement agreements, and the provision of conflict of interest training with employees, board members, and port council members. We've already started this. Terrence is leading the charge on this and working with Janice to get all the information that we can to the state auditor, and of course we're complying completely with them and fully cooperating. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Mark Amundson to talk about the status of vessels. Sorry? Yes. Oh, that's right. There's a couple other new things that we have. Do you want to pull those up?
I have Maddie ready to.
Oh, okay, state. Yeah. So we'll start with Madeline Pike, who's our federal advocate.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Great. Thanks for having me today. My name's Madeline Pike. I am a vice president at Ty Ginsberg and Associates. It's nice to be here to give a federal update and recap the Steamship Authority's legislative trip to Washington last week. Just a quick note about me, because I've never actually been before the board. I worked in DC for the House of Representatives. I was most recently working for the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee as the Director of Member Services and Stakeholder Outreach under former Chairman Peter DeFazio. On a personal note, most of my family still lives on the Cape between Orleans, East Falmouth, and Mashpee. And my father, Jeff Pike, is joining virtually, who has been working with the Steamship Authority for quite some time. He also was previously Chief of Staff of the Merchant Marine and Fisheries Committee in the House. And he was a commercial fisherman out of Chatham. So he has quite a bit of knowledge about the Steamship Authority's history and operations. As Alex and Peter said, last week we had a really productive trip to Washington. It was the first time that a board member and the general manager went to DC together to advocate for the authority's needs together. We met with several members of the Massachusetts delegation. We met with the acting administrator of the Federal Transit Administration. We met with Congresswoman Emily Randall, who is a member of Congress from Washington, and she recently formed and co-chairs the Congressional Ferry Caucus. And we also met with staff from the House Subcommittee on Highways and Transit and the House Subcommittee on Coast Guard and Maritime Development. So I'd like to give a brief overview of issues that are facing Congress that are of interest to the Steamship Authority, and then I'll do a quick recap of those meetings. So currently, surface transportation reauthorization is a hot topic in DC. Current funding for most transportation programs will expire on September 30th of this year. And if Congress does not pass a new bill or an extension of current programs, the transportation funding will lapse. The House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee just approved, I think 2 weeks ago, the Build America 250 Act after a marathon 16-hour or so markup. It's a $550 billion bipartisan piece of legislation that would fund and authorize key federal transportation programs for 5 years. I will note that the overall funding levels for public transportation and ferries are somewhat higher than most expected given the makeup of the current Congress. So we were excited to see that. What's next? The full House of Representatives will need to approve the legislation. The Senate also needs to act to approve a bill. The Senate is acting much more slowly than the House, but we're hopeful that this bipartisan success can move the Senate in the right direction. I will note that passing a massive bill like this during an election year, right before the August recess, is somewhat difficult. So we do probably expect a short-term extension for the immediate future. Another thing that we discussed with lawmakers in Washington is the Water Resources Development Act, or WRDA, which is a usually biannual piece of federal legislation that authorizes the Army Corps of Engineers to study, design, and construct infrastructure projects, mostly related to flood control, navigation, port improvements, and ecosystem restoration. The last WRDA bill that passed 2 years ago, we worked closely with Senator Barkey and Congressman Keating to have language included in the bill that directed the Army Corps to prioritize dredging in harbors where ferry service is the only source of public transportation year-round to island communities. So this particular language, makes the steamship authorities areas, the dredging for the steamship authorities harbors as a higher priority than some of the others. We are working with both members of Congress to strengthen that language, or potentially even mirror it in the prioritization and other grant programs across other federal agencies. So we will be following that closely. The House Transportation Committee is set to mark that legislation up next week, we think. So we'll be closely monitoring that. Excuse me. I think the third quick thing that I wanted to touch on is the annual appropriations process that funds government programs. The House and Senate are currently drafting and marking up their respective appropriations bills. The House, which normally tends to do this, is moving a little more quickly than the Senate. And the House Transportation Appropriations Committee approved its bill to fund DOT last week. As you might know, regular appropriations processes have somewhat gone out the window in favor of lumping several spending bills together, or just passing a continued resolution that extends current funding levels. But the return of congressionally directed spending projects, or earmarks, as part of this process has definitely benefited the Steamship Authority. Last year, the Massachusetts delegation was successful in securing a $2 million earmark, or congressionally directed spending, to purchase 2 electric buses for its fleet. This year, Congressman Keating is working on getting a smaller project for the Steamship Authority included that would help modernize the parking lot revenue collection system. So those are kind of the big 3 topics that I wanted to cover. And I'll give a quick overview of some of the meetings we had last week. And then I'm happy to answer any questions. So we met with Senator Markey's staff, and he sits on the Senate EPW, the Environment and Public Works Committee, which has jurisdiction over WRDA, the Water Resources Development Act, as I mentioned before. He wants to help bolster the language that he helped us get in the last cycle to prioritize dredging where Steamship Authority ferries operate. He's also helping to advocate for the New England Army Corps District to get another dredge to speed along dredging along, all of New England. Right now, there's only one dredge, which has significantly slowed just Army Corps dredging in general. We also met with the FTA acting administrator, Jamie Pfister. She's she's been with US DOT for a long time, but she's new to the position. So we wanted to do an early introduction to elevate Steamship Authority's visibility in DC. We discussed several topics, but one thing of note is that she wants to be helpful in organizing an FTA peer exchange with other ferry operators to share best practices and procurement issues and things like that. And we also met with Congresswoman Emily Randall. As I noted, she is from Washington, and she helped create the Congressional Ferry Caucus. And so one thing that the Congressional Ferry Caucus would like to do, it has several members. It has Representative Keating has joined and Representative Lynch. They would like to start doing some site visits with their caucus to some of the ferry operators that that the members of the caucus represent. So she's very interested in doing a congressional visit with other members of the caucus to the Cape to see the Steamship Authority's operations. We also met with House Transportation Committee staff. We met with the Highways and Transit Subcommittee staff on protecting federal ferry funds and ensuring that they go to public operators. Currently, the ranking Democrat on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee represents Washington State, so there's a lot of ferry operations there, and he definitely wants to protect robust funding levels for ferries in general and ferry programs. When we met with the Coast Guard and Maritime Development Subcommittee, we discussed some of the issues with shipbuilding in the U.S. And how we can be helpful moving forward with their staff. We also met with Congressman Lynch, who wants to be helpful with some of the workforce development and job training issues that the Steamship Authority has. So we have a lot to follow up on and understand that there's a lot of information here. But I also just want to mention that we did bring up the Woods Hole Terminal event in most of our meetings, and there's a lot of interest even outside of the Massachusetts delegation. So we would love to organize a robust event that would be beneficial to the authority. I think that wraps up my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that there's a lot of information here.
Thank you, Madeline. Are there any questions from board members? Ted?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I noticed that you spent a lot of time talking about House members, and in your discussion of your experience, there's a lot of focus on House. Is there a plan to also focus on Senate outreach?
Yes, and we also met with Senator Warren's staff, and Senator Warren sits on the Senate Banking Committee, which, because of weird jurisdictional things in the Senate, that has jurisdiction over public transportation. Her office is and she is the ranking Democrat on the full committee. So we've been working with their office and the committee staff to ensure that Steamship Authority's priorities are moving forward in any sort of surface transportation bill that the Senate might come up with. They are moving on a much slower pace, so we've wanted to get in front of the House just because of the speed things are moving at. But we work very closely with Senator Markey and Senator Warren's offices, especially Markey sitting on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee too. He's been a really big advocate for us, so we'll continue to do that, but happy to reach out to other members and discuss with the board how we can be more productive in the future.
Great, thank you.
Ted, I'd add that one of the things that Alex and I kind of focused in on our meetings was on the creation of the board's capital project steering committee, and then working with Alex to come up with that Steamship 2050 capital projects plan. And not only was there a lot of excitement, but I think from our congressional delegation here in Massachusetts, but they saw that it would be very useful for them to then be able to take that plan and be able to know what our priorities are, where to advocate, and where they could find both grant opportunities they could support for us, as well as perhaps some discretionary grants that might be available in future budgets. And I know we talked to both Madeline and Jeff want to see that as soon as we've developed it so that they can start plugging in what legislation should we be looking at for grants and where can we get that assistance. Because we do know that capital funding outside of the fare box, the grants are going to be the only way we're going to meet our capital needs.
Right. Well, and I think that's a good approach. You know, to the extent that the existence of the Ferry Caucus is useful to us, you know, our issues are their issues and their constituents' issues. So, you know, the fact that we are putting all this work into kind of a broad, forward-looking, long-range plan, that can become useful to them as they work for their constituents as well. So, you know, we can be an example for them, and they can be a resource for our needs as well as their constituents' needs.
Yes, exactly. Any other questions from board members, comments? Alex, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I have nothing. I think Madeline did a great job. So I thank Madeline and Jeff for hosting us last week. It was a really great, productive couple days.
It was, and I have to say that I do think in the future having a board member or board members go, I think really does have a very positive impact. I know that Congressman Keating made point of that when we met with him, that it's the first time a board member had come down. So. All right, well, thank you, madam.
So our next item of topic is our state legislative report, and I have Maureen Glenn from the Issues Group, who's our Beacon Hill advocate, to give a little update on what's happening up in Boston. We could find her.
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. You're good.
Good morning. My name is Maureen Glenn, and I'm a partner at Issues Management Group. And our firm and various iterations of our firm over the years has proudly represented the Steamship Authority for several decades. We have my partner, Dan Sensi, and Dan had to jump off at 10:30. But we have been engaging with Alex, and we have, I know Alex has been meeting various members of the legislative delegation on his own in the community, and we are talking with and dialoguing with the members of the legislative delegation from South Coast and from the Cape and the Islands on a regular basis at the State House about issues involving the Steamship Authority, and making sure that we are foremost in everyone's mind about how we can be helpful to the authority moving forward. We understand that the authority does not receive an appropriation in the state budget, but there are many other transportation and coastal related issues that appear regularly throughout the legislative process, and we are happy to work with the Steamship Board and the leadership team on any of those issues going forward. Our state budget is, let me back up a little bit. The Massachusetts legislature, as some of you know, operates on a 2-year calendar. We are now 6 weeks away from the end of the 2-year session, full formal sessions. The legislature will be adjourning formal sessions on July 31st of this year. Our budget is now in a conference committee, and the hope is to have it on the governor's desk by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. We have heard that things are proceeding in a good direction in the conference committee, and hopefully we'll have an on-time budget this year. This year, the legislature changed its rules to allow for the legislature to carry over any bills that are in a conference committee. And we do have several large items that are pending, and some of them are in a conference committee currently, and some will be going to conference committee once it passes both branches. So we have an energy affordability bill that we're waiting for the Senate to act on. We have an economic development bill that we're waiting for the House to release in the coming days. We have an environmental bond bill that we expect the House to release in coming days as well. So all of those bills have significance to the Steamship Authority and the South Coast and Cape Cod and the Islands region in general. So we will keep you informed if there's anything on point relative to the Steamship Authority and just in general. Senator Sear led last year, first year of the two-year session, on obtaining funding for ferries. There was a $20 million appropriation for ferry upgrades across the region, and that was included as part of the Fair Share Amendment legislation that the House and Senate have now been taking up every other year since the passage of the Fair Share Amendment, also known as the Millionaire's Tax. 50% of that revenue is designated for transportation and 50% is designated for education. So we continue to work with the transportation agencies to make sure that funding is allocated appropriately and that the Steamship Authority is included in any of those plans now and going forward. We also have monitored the MassDOT public hearings about their capital plan for Southeastern Mass. As you know, it's an ambitious plan and an exciting time for transportation in the region with the Cape Cod bridges and potential expansion of permanent Cape Cod rail. I think we'll see a feasibility study on that perhaps before the end of this session in one of these bills that I had just outlined. We continue to meet with Alex, as I mentioned, and our plan, now that he's covered the important bases on the federal level, will be to organize more formal meetings with the Cape and South Coast delegations. So happy to answer any questions. I would also, I wanted to add at the beginning that I'm also, my family has vacationed in Falmouth every summer for my entire life, and I'm very familiar with the area.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? No. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're going to hand it over to Caroline Muldoon, who's going to give us an update on our grants.
Good morning, everyone. Wait for Sean. With Peter and Alex's recent trip to DC, Alex felt it was appropriate to talk a little bit about the money that comes into the Steamship Authority annually and our opportunities within the discretionary landscape for us to go after our capital projects for the agency. So the Steamship Authority receives approximately $10 million annually between the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. The $5 million that comes down to us through the FTA is used primarily for our dry dock program, and then the balance would be put towards miscellaneous capital projects. The $5 million that we receive through Federal Highway is used again for capital projects across the agency. I'll stress again the funding use that we're only allowed to use these funds for preventive maintenance and for capital projects. So we do a good job of planning out these capital projects and then applying these funds within. Go ahead, next slide. So some previous projects that we've used grant funds for are, again, our annual vessel dry dock and repair program, which we use $5 million of. We've used federal funds for the conversion of the Barnstable and the Aquina most recently, the Vineyard Haven transfer bridge replacement, as well as the Nantucket transfer bridges replacement, our current website and reservation system hardware project, the Fairhaven maintenance vehicle replacement project. We were able to utilize lapsing funds within the Fairhaven UZA. MassDOT approached us with these lapsing funds, and we were grateful to be able to take a quick look at our eligible projects and say that we did have a way to use those funds, and we're able to, take in extra funds that came down to us. The Vineyard Haven Pier and Slipwork project, phase 1 is complete, and then diesel bus replacement with battery electric buses. So going forward, looking from 2026 to 2031, for those FTA funds, we're looking again to use them for the annual dry dock and repair program. We've got main engine overhauls. We're replacing two diesel buses with two 35-foot electric buses. We're going to be replacing the Hyannis wastewater pump out system. We're going to be purchasing 4 new rescue boats, and we're parking lot terminal traffic booth replacement across the different terminals. With our federal highway funding, we're going to be looking at the Vineyard Haven Slipwork project for phases 2 and 3, Fairhaven Transfer Bridge replacement, and the Woods Hole Terminal landside improvements. For discretionary programs that we have applied for in 2026, we went after for security system replacements, parking lot revenue and access control system, new vessel construction, Nantucket terminal feasibility study, and the workforce training initiative. So we're still waiting on notice of funding opportunities for the low-no emission bus grant, as well as the bus and bus facilities grant, which will come down through DOT. But we'll take advantage of those when they come through. Happy to take any questions from the board.
Any questions from the board?
Great, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
There's one more new aspect to the report for the general manager is a marine operations update. This is talking about staffing and basically generally where our boats are and what's happening with our boats, kind of giving a forward look. I've noticed in past meetings, we're definitely down in DC, people are asking us about staffing, because maritime staffing nationwide is a challenge, and we've had our own challenges the last few years, but Joe Russas, our operations center manager, he's done a great job of staffing up, so he's going to give a little report of where we stand on staffing right now.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Joe.
If Sean can put up the PowerPoint. Okay, today I'd like to provide a brief overview of our current marine operations staffing levels. This presentation will highlight where we stand today on our workforce readiness and how to meet current operational demands while preparing for future workforce needs. Overall, marine operations is fully staffed across the board on all vessel positions, with additional personnel available to support operations for training, future succession planning. Next slide. Actually, Sean, it's a staffing overview. Just one back, sorry. On this slide, we'll reflect the current staffing levels as of June 2026. Marine operations currently requires 243 positions to support the 2026 summer schedule. We currently have 260 active employees, providing a staffing surplus for operational requirements. 3 employees are currently in training. We have 12 on-call personnel available to assist with vacancies, peak demand periods, and unexpected absences. Currently, we have 30 rostered captains. We need 27 for the summer schedule. We have 29 rostered pilots. We have 26 that are required. We have 50 AEBs that are active. We only need 47. Engineers remain strong with additional chiefs and oilers above required levels for training. Training our existing chief engineers with all the vessels, and then purser and bosuns and AEB positions are fully staffed and on target. Next slide. Marine operations is fully staffed across all vessel positions. Our active training programs continue to develop future qualified personnel. We can better support vacation schedules, training requirements, and vessel maintenance periods. Recruitment remains a priority as we prepare for future retirements and workforce transitions. We continue to invest in training, succession planning, to develop future captains, pilots, and engineers. We closely monitor workforce demographics and retirement eligibility to anticipate future staffing needs. Retention remains a key focus to preserve experience and institutional knowledge throughout the organization. Our current staffing levels with marine operations is a strong position to meet today's operational demands while ensuring we are prepared for future workforce challenges. In closing, marine operations is currently well staffed throughout continued recruitment, training, and succession planning for the future. We go out to all the maritime schools throughout the country. I go to high schools. I go to all different kinds of career fairs trying to get entry-level positions and licenses to come in for the future. Thank you for giving me this time. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Ted?
Thank you. I have two questions, one involving staffing, one involving recruiting. Can you describe what the recruiting efforts have been on the islands, among the island population, to position Steamship Authority as a career path for people in high school and looking at career options on Nantucket and the Vineyard? And second, with respect to the staffing levels, how much buffer is in our required staffing levels to ensure that there are no service disruptions because of absenteeism?
First question, we go through, Vineyard Haven has the career fair in the spring, and sometimes they do it in the fall as well for kids transitioning out. We currently have probably 5 or 6 vineyarders that are working for the authority. I hired one last year. I have one coming aboard this year. Kind of word of mouth over there from ticket sellers, people coming out, riding the boat, stuff like that. There's only the one school that's over there, but we do reach out to them, and they're coming back and forth with us. And then for surplus, like I had said in one of the slides, we have 30. We have, hold on one second. We have 27. We need 27 captains to run this schedule we are currently running for this summer. We have 30, so that's +3. The pilots, we need 26. We have 29, that's another +3. So we have people in the pool in case there are people are going to go out on FMLA, somebody's going to go on, an absence or something like that. In the regular unlicensed, we have plenty of people for all those positions. We did get a couple extra chief engineers for the summer because of the Monomoy, the Aquina, and the last couple of freight boats we took on for training to get all the experienced chiefs that we already have on all our other boats to do training as well, so we don't have any missed trips or any loss of service for the summer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Bob, go ahead.
Have you had any contact in the town of Barnstable for the junior ROTC of the Coast Guard classes?
I have not. I have gone to Barnstable High School a few times for their career fairs that they've had in the past, but I have not gone to the Coast Guard for ROTC. I've gone to the Coast Guard up in Otis, that they have a transition program for retirees that are coming out of the Coast Guard. And I've gone and spoke up in Boston, and I have also done at Otis Air Force Base.
Okay, I'll give you a call during the week.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other? Just a question in terms of kind of pipeline and vulnerabilities. Out of the staffing, what is, I guess, what do you see as our greatest vulnerability in terms of recruitment into that pipeline, if any? And then a question just kind of, are we recruiting people to come in as captains, or are most of the people who rise to the level of captain coming in as mates and pilots and working their way up? I'm just to kind of understand where we're recruiting, because I know that you're not going to recruit a captain; they won't have the hours straight out of the one of the academies. So.
Correct. So the last few years, I've been recruiting mates from outside that have come in, and what the process is, they come in, work the summer, get trained as a mate. They have to get their trips in to draw their pilotage up at Boston. So by the first fall of working here, they draw the charts by the first of the year. They continue with their training to be ready by the 1st of May, so they could work as a pilot, and they worked that consecutive summer through October. And if they came in with a captain's license, now they have all their pilotage. They've been trained as a pilot. They've worked as a pilot. And then that fall, we do a training for captain, which we just did this past year as well. But yeah, the maritime kids, the cadets getting out, they have their third, so they can be hired as a mate. I do have 3 currently training on the vessels right now, getting their trips in down in Nantucket as well as in Atoll. But going in the future, it's going to be licensed deck officers. For the longest time, I worked on the boats for a long period of time, and it was all in-house, guys going up through the hawse pipe, stuff like that. But in the last 5-6 years, I've been hiring from outside, because we did have a lot of licensed deck officer retire in 1 year period.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Mr.
helpful.
Chair, I'd just like to add that part of the maturation of the program is to get the pilots with captain's licenses. So we build up that grade so that when we have a turnover in the masters with captains, we can have someone to move immediately up. Right now, we got a lot of young pilots, which we're going to get trained up and get in the captain program so they can actually operate as captain within the Steamship program. So we're going to develop, that was an excellent chart you put together, Joe. I think we can develop a KPI of ratios of captains and mates licenses so that we can trend that a little bit better.
I guess it would also be helpful to see too, in terms of what is our attrition rate between mate to pilot and then pilot to captain, since it takes 2 seasons to get to the pilot at a minimum, right, from the mate, if I'm understanding that timeline correctly?
Yes, it's also time and grade that we want them to be, you may have the license coming from the outside, but you need the time and grade, on the different routes to accumulate. And you look at someone like a Jim Corbett that just retired, he probably had close to 15,000 trips. And that's not an exact number, but when you have a captain with that type of experience, that's what we need.
Understood. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what is our attrition rate as we bring people into the recruiting ultimately. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
And I was very proud to see that Joe went out and hired a King's Pointer just to make me happy. So thank you for hiring the King's Pointer. But we'll try to get more of those. The next item I wanted to just give an update on vessels, and this is something that I guess I'm going to present. I know in our schedule we talk about what boats are there, but I thought it'd be good just to show a chart of what boats are running right now, what boats are in dry dock and whatnot. So this will be a quick presentation. So this just shows by vessel where they're operating right now, and you can see in the green is the Martha's Vineyard route, in blue is the Nantucket route. We currently have the Barnstable going into dry dock, then she'll be going into a repair program. The Sankaty is currently working on the Nantucket route, but she's going to go into backup mode here shortly when the Monomoy comes and takes her place on the Nantucket run. The Governor is in backup for through October. But this gives you a nice little snapshot of where the boats are, where we expect them to be in the next few months. Next slide. And then this just shows you by route. So we have 4 boats. We'll have 4 boats running on the Martha's Vineyard route through October. 4 boats on the Nantucket route, but of course that one of those is the INOs, the high-speed boat. So there's actually three of our Ro-Ro boats. Barnstable again is on dry dock. She's going to go into repair after that, and then she's going to help out in Martha's Vineyard later this year. The Governor, of course, is in backup, and the Sankaty's in backup, and the Barnstable will be working backup for a while as well. So just a quick little rundown.
Yeah, just like that, we have the Sankaty in standby in Woods Hole, and that's in a great position. If we need that boat in an emergency, we can get that to Nantucket or directly right on the Vineyard Run. So we really like that standby boat there.
Are there any questions about that?
Any questions? No?
Okay, next up is the engineering and maintenance project update. Mark, you can take the lead on that.
Get Zach coming over.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Zach.
This is just a small update. Since our last meeting, the Aquina has completed all of her repair items and is returned to service. The Barnstable arrived at Thames River Shipyard on June 10th. She's pier side waiting to enter the dry dock. Right now, our tentative date to go into the dry dock is on the 23rd, so Tuesday of next week. Work that can be started pier side has commenced, and a more in-depth update will be provided at the next Port Council and Board meeting in July. That's everything that's currently in a repair status.
Any questions from the board? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is our Woods Hole Terminal Construction Project update, and that's Mark. You can take the lead on that.
Yes, it's exciting times. We're getting ready for the opening of the terminal. This past week, we got the occupancy certificate from the state. The first picture here shows, although it's a reflection off the glass, it shows the reflection as the Village of Woods Hole. Next slide, please.
Bring your mic closer here.
So next slide we have here, we see again the ticket glassed area where all the cellars are. Next slide, please. Some more pictures, one from the back where they'll be working. There's four ticket agents and an ADA location also. Next slide. Okay, so the snapshot here is we've committed $39 million to date. The payments to date, $32 million. Outstanding commitments and allowances, $5,279,000. Total project, $37,715,000. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from anyone? I have a question more towards, I guess, moving towards the phase 3. I guess, where are we in terms of our discussions with the town of Falmouth and its police department as to our circulation plan for the terminal, both in the interim before we complete phase 3 and then after phase 3, as well as the curb cut status of the final disposition of the terminal building, and if you could speak also to what our potential ride share pickup solution may be in Woods Hole.
So right now we have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday with the DPW to talk about the site plan going forward with the curb cuts and how that's going to work. We have a meeting next week with DPW and the city manager about the full site and circulation and maintenance and whatnot. Our plan is for rideshare. There's actually in the next phase, there will be a cutout basically where the temporary buildings are now. That's going to be about a third of that is going to be bicycle parking, and the other 2/3 is essentially going to be rideshare parking. So that'll be coming with the next phase. We have to work more with Allison Fletcher and I joined the traffic advisory committee yesterday for the town of Woods of Falmouth, and we were working with the PD there on trying to mitigate Ubers and ride shares in the Woods Hole area, but it's a challenge there how to actually minimize that and how to actually target that. But we do want to work with the town, and we'll be talking about that, of course, tomorrow at the Woods Hole community meeting. But I think does that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, it does gives me a status update.
Yeah.
Ted, do you have a question, follow-up?
I do, thank you. Mark, congratulations on getting the certificate of occupancy a few days early. The big question is, when is the building going to be live? When are we going to be having customers in the building? And my second question is, if you could talk about a plan for phase 3, like what are the contingent things that have to happen, and when do we think it's actually going to start in earnest?
Okay, thank you for that. Right now, just to get up, I believe Alex is going to probably announce the date sometime soon of when the actual opening will be next week. We are just finishing up. We're getting all the lines done. There's a lot of signage that's going to go in place because it's going to be a complete change in direction for our traveling public, getting off the buses, going in to the ticketing. You know, it's a change of direction, you know, with leading around to different slips. So we're working on that diligently, and right now we're also working with the town of Falmouth. We need to have the final curb cut in place so we can have the final plan set up for preparation. So I think, Alex, you may have something more to add.
Yeah, so once we have a final site plan and we have an agreement with the town of Falmouth, then we can submit it to NERDA. Is that NEPA? NEPA, sorry, NEPA. We have to get a NEPA permit to be able to, once they get their approval, we can actually begin. I think we have to wait for that before we can put the RFP out to get the construction done. So there is a lot of pre-steps that need to be made before we can do phase 3. I think the interim phase we're going to do is getting rid of the temporary buildings, and that we're looking at trying to do in the fall. But once the actual construction of phase 3, we have to get, the first thing we have to do is get the curb cut and get the site plan agreed to with the town of Falmouth and Department of Public Works.
So nothing's going to happen during the summer, obviously.
Nothing's going to happen during the summer. No.
No. And with just to make sure I heard the answer correctly and understood it, with respect to going live in the building, you're going to announce a tentative schedule for that next week.
We're looking to open it next week. So we're hoping. Yeah. We're hoping that we're going to go live Monday or Tuesday with the soft launch.
Excellent. Thank you.
So there are a few, like with any construction project, you have a punch list of items that you need to clean up, and we're going through that right now. And if we can get that all done this week, we'll be open by Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you.
Mark, I talked about the IDEA, or current status of the IDEA system.
Okay, so we continue to make progress with the reservation system, and we're just as a little update here. So recent progress, we did our beta group kickoff May 28th. It was an introduction in how we're going to go forward. We'll be getting more into actual computer with the group coming up. We shared the procurement plan with the board and port council. The board approved that project timeline. Master data was finalized, and that's all of our data going to IDEA. IDEA was on site this past week for assistance and configurations and any questions we have. We just found there's a great advantage of having them physically on site. I myself went out to BC Ferries out in Vancouver a few weeks ago to learn more about their training programs and their different testing programs. And we have because they bought and installed this IDEA system, same system, just a few years ago. We have another IDEA system that just got into operation at Calmac Ferry in Scotland. We have a few people going out there next week. There's great learning opportunities, how they integrated the testing and the training to their employees, to their traveling public. There's just a lot of value in that, and so the training programs are going to be coming up. Upcoming key activities: finalize outstanding statements of work. Policy phase 3 we're working into. R13 testing, we're doing that right now. Finalize the training plan. We have not received the actual training plan, and we won't until August from IDEA. That's why we have that marked in the red, because we were very interested in learning and getting as much preparation done for that training. Business decisions coming up, procurements, policy phase 3, refined data migration plan, terminal operations, new scanning equipment, etc., testing, functional and performance, identified training resources, and we have a slow key risk, defining go live plan, B, C, and D, resource capacity, IT and ops, current policies, just unclear, undocumented, we're cleaning that up, and just change fatigue and staff training. So it's a lot going on, a lot's going to happen in the next couple months. We're looking at, in November, we're going to have, the public will have access into getting into their profiles and seeing how this works. And December 16th, we're going to have a go live for May and April of next year of actually putting reservations into the system. So this is coming fast. It's a lot of work, and we're really excited about it. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Ted?
Thank you. We had one group call for the beta test group that the volunteers who signed up. What's the plan for that group? When is the next call? What are the next steps?
We'll be rolling out with some information over the next few days on that. We're just getting our finalization in place, but that'll be coming out. I thought it was a great discussion group in the first time around, and this one we want to get into the meat of the program.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the first session for the beta group was kind of a free flow of information, and it was really great. I agree with Mark. It was great because we found that there's a lot of very interested, very keenly interested people out there that want to be part of it, and it wasn't the full group. We have over 100 people signed up to do beta testing. I think we had around 50 on that first call. Definitely an energetic group, and we're very glad to have them. We're tightening up the agenda process and the training plan for the beta group, but that's what Mark's going to say we're rolling out. But it is the plan. We're going to have regular calls with them and really set them up and try to figure out exactly. We want to make sure we know who's in that group. We want to have a broad swath of passengers, whether it's freight, island residents, tourists, kind of have all kinds of people testing the system. So that's rolling up. That's going to be an important part of rolling the system out.
And Alex, you had said in a prior meeting that one of the things that you were looking at with respect to training resources was internal resources versus external resources. How is your thinking evolving on that issue?
Well, it's been great. Mark's actually with the help of Angela from our reservations team, we've got a bunch of former employees who are going to be part of our testing team as well, so they know the internal side of it. So they're going to help with that, and then we're going to have a bunch of external volunteers helping with that. So we're getting, and then in addition, Mark, you want to talk about we found we've training resources
from the state contract we found, and we're right now interviewing various training, set up a structured training program so we can bring in what I really like about this is we're going to be using a lot of our retired former reservationists, etc. So they have an understanding of the old system, and also with our traveling public. We're looking forward into getting that done and scheduled and start getting out there and presenting it and training to the public as well as our internal. So looking forward to the external as well, and also to our commercial customers. A lot of work to go in the next few months.
So short term, we're looking to hire some training resources, contractors, but long term, we do want to get an internal training department ourselves. So we want to have a training manager who's customer service training is something we should always be doing. So that's something that's on my radar to get, as well as a project manager that we're actually currently looking at a project manager job description that we hope to post shortly. But following that, as long as Mark Rozum says we have the money, we're going to hire a training person as well.
Thanks.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, we'll also be coming to the board shortly in the IT steering for short-term policy changes. For instance, next March and April when we transition live, we're not going to book a round-trip reservation in one system and bring it over. So for the period of March, we'll in early April have one-way excursion tickets. Another thing will be, what do we do with the profile renewals? It doesn't make sense to go through the process in the old system that's only going to be there for 3 months, asking for permission just to roll that over for 3 months and just update everything in the new system. So we'll have some short-term fixes that we'll need the board to approve so we can go ahead and work efficiently to get this launched.
And I just kind of question and comment, and I've talked about this probably more in the IT Executive Steering Committee. When will we have a plan in place, as well as the resources to assist the traveling public when we go live with this kind of our customer service support? And Alex, you and I have kind of talked offline about this idea of our reservation office isn't open the same hours that our steamships operate. And if we're moving to this new system, we really do need to have a level of support that kind of bookends each end, the beginning and end of our operational day. So when can we expect to see a plan on that, and what resources we'll need to reimagine the reservation office to be a customer service office?
Right.
I think we'll be presenting probably in the August IT Exec Committee meeting a draft of that. Right now, we have not received the Train the Trainer program from IDEA. We won't get that until August, so we're hungry to go on that program. Just that's why we're traveling out to CalMac next week with 3 people, just to understand how they set up the basis of their training program, leverage the good things they did, get their comments on how they do better. Certainly, what you just said is very important. BC Ferry said when they went online with the DIA, they've had a strong uptick in the reservation for obvious reasons, of people calling up, learning to go make their own reservation. I found their system very intuitive, so I'm hoping for a similar result with us, but that's our plan.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item.
Okay, the last item I have is we're in the midst of evaluation period for our staff. We're evaluating all of us, and right now we're looking at what the merit and basically the cost of living increases will be. And we're presenting to you today that we're looking for our non-union personnel. We're looking at a 2.5% salary structure adjustment. And Sean, do we have that?
You're looking for 2.5.
Right, there's 2.5 structure and a 3.5% merit increase for a total 6% overall increase, salary increases potential for non-union employees. And the interesting part of that kind of matches what the non-licensed personnel are getting as their union increase this year. And there is, in your packet, there is a staff summary that Janice has put together.
I have a question and then kind of a comment resurrected from last year when we discussed this. I guess the first is just so that I understand that every one of our, if we approve this, every non-union personnel at the steamship, excluding the general manager, who separate contract, would get a 2.5% salary structure adjustment, otherwise known as a cost of living raise, and that would be non-discretionary.
Correct.
But then the total overall merit increase, based upon the performance plans in place at the steamship, that would not go to everyone, and people could get up to 3.5%, but they could get nothing, or they could get somewhere below 3.5%. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct. So we're going through the performance evaluation process currently. So these increases, based on their performance evaluations, will be typically they're effective July 1st.
Okay. And then this is once again kind of comment, criticism, and I harken back to our former Martha's Vineyard board member for Jim Melkin, who was focused on this as well. I know that we have that report and study from WTW but it is a national survey, not a regional survey. And I know that both Jim and I had concerns about using a national survey necessarily to base what the cost of living adjustment should be on the Cape and Islands.
So aside from the Willis Towers Watson report that we've been utilizing for as long as I can remember, we do also access the resources that are available to us regionally or locally. So in terms of online information through Indeed, salary.com, these other compensation resources, we compare what we're currently paying, and that information is available to us. So that is periodically reviewed throughout the year.
And it's not too far up, but I just know that the CPI for 2025 was 2.7, not 2.5. So for using CPI as our rate, we're not keeping our salaries at the base level wouldn't be keeping up with inflation for non-union personnel. I guess that's. Does anyone else have any questions or?
You know, the 2.5% is kind of boilerplate, but meritorious service, who decides that? The department heads? What kind of criteria is there to, you know?
So we review, obviously, the information from Willis Towers Watson. We got together with Alex, Mark Rozum, Terrence, and Mark Amundsen. We review that based on the information that we're provided.
Okay, so you do that, and then you hand it to the board for approval?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So that's essentially what we're asking, is that the board would approve this proposed merit increases, percentages.
Ted, do you have a comment, question?
I do. And echoing the comments that you made, Peter, and not to be redundant to my predecessor, but you know, the cost of living simply doesn't compare to the nationally versus the Cayman Islands. And so, you know, the fact that the 2.5% is falling short of the national CPI, and then factoring in the cost of living on the Cayman Islands, I am concerned that there's an expiration date to this trend, because we'll start to find attrition problems.
Yeah, I mean, I shared that concern last year. I share that concern this year, that I do think I want to be data driven, but I want to have the right data. And I think we really need to find somewhere where we can get regional data on what the cost of living adjustment should be. And I know that, you know, what management's asking for here is an overall capped increase of 6% with 2.5% as the structural adjustment, and the overall merit increase capped at 3.5. I'm the chair, so I can't make a motion, but I would entertain that maybe we make that salary structure adjustment, the board think about making a motion, one of the board members, not me, to at least have that reflect CPI, even if we don't touch the overall percentages that they're asking for.
I guess I'll ask a question. Is there time to do a better comparison of Barnstable, Dukes, Nantucket County cost of living versus the national average? Because I'm pretty sure that they trend probably 20 to 30% higher. You know, is there a better, do we have the option of looking at this more holistically and trying to better capture something that will not lag behind CPI as it applies to the relevant jurisdiction geographies?
I would say 100% we can. I mean, if that's what you'd like us to do, certainly that would make sense for us to look just more narrowly focused on our neighborhood and what the cost of living increases are. So we can do that. And if necessary, I mean, I know that the raises usually take effect July 1st, but if you want us to come back at the next board meeting with that report, I'm sure we can, and I'm going to speak out of turn here, but we can do raises retroactively as well.
And Ted, I could say we could take up this now and not delay for July 1st, but then instruct management that we could then look at, with that data, the board could then vote to increase the cost of living adjustment, both prospectively or retroactively, you know, in August, if we just didn't want to delay. I mean, I can, if I was a non-union personnel, I'd appreciate the discussion the board's having, but I'd appreciate it more if they gave me more money to July 1st and not wait.
Nobody, we know that the number's not going down.
Right.
So I have no objection to proceeding as recommended, with the understanding that a better analysis of data out there will be done, so we can make a better decision.
And we could move that as a board, that we have that data comes to us in August for discussion and vote.
So moved.
All right. Mark, did you have something you wanted to add?
We could also, as Ted was saying, 20-30%, if we reverse the number for the merit and the salary and not to exceed 6, we could do the COLA at 3.5 and the merit to be 2.5, and do it that way, if that makes the board comfortable as a suggestion.
So where are we going to get all this data from? I mean, the Cape Cod Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, who carries, you know, this type of thing? I know it's out there, and I think the Chamber has a pretty good handle on it. But we got to be taking it for something that has some credibility and not guessing.
I'm sure we could. That data's out there.
Yeah, I think the first stop would be the Chamber of Commerce and
Right.
check with them, and they would point us in a direction.
Well, you could also check with like EDIC, the Environment, Economic Development Committee. So.
Yeah, we can use those resources. Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? So, and it was suggested by the treasurer that we could have a salary, for now, to ask the board to approve a salary structure adjustment of 3.5% and a total overall merit increase of 2.5%, inverting those numbers, for a total annual salary increase at 6%.
Are you putting that on the table now?
Well, Mark suggested that. I can't make a motion as chair. I'm saying, would someone like to make that motion?
Sure you can. That's not prudent. Let me ask you this. Upon approval,
Bring your mic closer to your mouth, please.
upon approval, when is this active?
It would be the first full week in July. I don't have the calendar in front of me, so it would be for the pay period ending July.
Okay, in
6, I think.
in our budget, when we had our budget.
Pardon?
In our budget, I assume that we put money aside.
Yes, in the
knowing
budget,
this
it
gonna
is
happen.
5% in the budget.
5% of the budget, and we're looking for 6.5.
Well, no, it would be 6, but 2.5 of, well, it depends. I mean, they're asking for 6%. I think that in speaking, I said my preference would be at least not only to get more data on what the cost of living adjustment would be, but Mark Rozum suggested, and I support the suggestion that we flip the numbers so the salary structure adjustment, the cost of living, is 3.5%, and then the merit increase would be 2.5% for now. And in August, we'd look at the new data to see if we need to make any further adjustments. And 3.5% automatically, if we had a motion and we approve, would go into effect for all non-union personnel in the first pay period of July. That 2.5% is a merit increase that does not necessarily, unless we have everyone and gets the highest performance rating of the non-union personnel, does not necessarily reflect what the total cost would be. It could be up to that, but it may not be.
So based on the recommendation, we would take 3.5% of all of the non-union salary, that would be adjusted, and then based on Alex's performance of the department, he would give whatever percentage up to 2.5% for that department, then the department head would then, based on their individual evaluations, divvy it up to their employees.
were they, when we went through the annual budget and the salaries, and the approved salaries, what was the base that we started on, cost of living?
For the increase that I used 5% this year, looking at some of the union contracts. Most of the union contracts are at 6%. Based on cost of inflation adjustment, I was looking at CPI as a 5%. It's really an estimate that we're doing 12 months in advance.
I'm just trying to figure what we did, you know, for all we had a base cost of living increase, correct?
Yeah, so I based the salary adjustment for the 2026 operating budget on a 5% aggregate of the cost of living and the merit.
Okay,
is what I put in the budget, recommended and approved in the budget.
So this conversation we're having now, is there, you know, is this kind of equal?
It would be a little bit higher than what was in the budget, potentially, based on, I haven't seen the employee reviews, but as Peter just mentioned, be up to 2.5%. I don't know what the average will come out to, but as Peter pointed out, that's if everyone gets the highest mark, it would hit 2.5, so I'd expect it to be lower.
But we're talking about 1% over projected budget, right?
Potentially is the cap.
Yeah, we're talking about no more than 1% of payroll budgeted for non-union personnel, not 1% of the
for
whole
6 months of the year.
For 6 months of the year. Yep, Ted?
I try not to disagree with the chairman, but this might be one of those times where I have to a little bit. My suggestion would be what your original suggestion, Peter, was, which is let's pass the 2.5% and 3.5% now, and then revisit after we actually have data to support any upward change from the 2.5% COLA portion. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to say, well, we'll make it 3.5% and then find out later that maybe it shouldn't have been 3.5%. I'd much rather be in a position where we're waiting for data before making an upward adjustment, because I think that we have that obligation.
I can understand that. I also think that if we're too far below in the COLA, I don't want to necessarily take away merit increase from high performers too. So if we have to readjust the COLA, I find that much easier to do from a fiduciary standpoint in August than be like, oh, we really just cut out the merit increase for people.
Yeah, and I mean, just from a message that we're sending to the workforce, I vastly prefer going up rather than having to go down.
All right. So is there a motion to approve a salary structure adjustment of 2.5% for non-union personnel and a total overall merit increase up to 3.5% for non-union personnel for a potential 6% annual salary increase for authorities' non-union personnel?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes. I would much rather go the other way with the COLA getting up to a level that is probably going to go, and the meritorial not, you know, quite so aggressive, to get up another 3% to where I think we're heading, you know, is harder than if it only has to go up a couple of percentages. So I would probably vote this down and try the other way, but that's all right, unless everybody can agree to that.
I just, my thought is, I don't want to delay an increase in pay to our non-union personnel because we don't have the data today to make the final decision on a cost of living adjustment. I do think a merit increase of 3.5%, according to the WTW report, is pretty much in line just nationwide. So I feel comfortable with that. It's more, is our salary structure adjustment too low? I don't want to delay giving any salary structure adjustment. So I'm comfortable kind of with our instruction, personally with our instruction, to come back in August to see if we need to increase the COLA. But our intentions aren't going to meet people's rent, mortgage, and grocery payments if we delay till August.
Okay, would you repeat the question?
All right, so the motion before us is to authorize a salary structure adjustment of 2.5% for all authorities' non-union personnel, and a total overall merit increase up to 3.5% for all non-union personnel, with the potential of a 6% annual salary increase for authority non-union personnel. It's been moved in second. Are we ready to vote? Mr. Gavin?
Gavin, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
All right, the motion's been approved and passed, and the authority's been given its instruction to come back in August with the data on the COLA.
We will do that. Thank you.
Will do, thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
That concludes the general manager's report. And we're next is
Procurement.
procurement.
All right, it is 11:38 a.m. I'm still on potential track for my 2-hour meeting, but if not, I only have myself to blame for the last discussion.
First up is we have the authorization of the award contract for the dry dock and overhaul services of the MV Eagle. And Mark, you want to take that or pass it to Zach?
Thank you. So the MV Eagle is due for dry dock. We've gone out for tender, and we received bids from 2 shipyards. But before we get into that, the purpose is to authorize the general manager to award this contract dry dock of the MV Eagle to Thames Shipyard of New London, Connecticut, for a total of $1.951 million. The Eagle is scheduled. The Eagle is scheduled to go in October 23rd to the 9th of December for a statutory dry dock, including exam rudder, propeller maintenance, bow thruster maintenance, reduction gear overhaul, shaft maintenance and alignment, and coating and superstructure areas. The 2026 operating budget for the dry dock and overhaul of the services for the Eagle, aforementioned, was $1.382 million. The major discrepancies between the two were an increase of hull internals of $26,911, increase in hull and painting $49,000, increase in temporary services $49,000. It goes on. This is a trend that we've seen, an upward trend of costing that we've used past dry docks to get it better, but we're still seeing that increase, and it's a national increase, and that's a differential between our budget and the tender price. We've received only 2 tenders. We're working to increase that, but it's very regional, so we're asking for the board to recommend the authorization of the award to Thames Shipyard for $1.95 million.
And if I may, before the board votes, this will be using FTA, as Carolyn mentioned earlier, with the dry dock program, an 80-20 match with FTA funds, and so we can earmark more grant funds that we've had to help with that differential and absorb 80% of that.
We sent this out to 14 different shipyards. We only got 2 responses, and of those 2 responses, actually only 1 was fully responsive. The Boston dry dock was not a viable option. So to try to alleviate that or fix that, Zach and I, Rob Neer, are heading down to the Marine Log Ship Repair Conference next week and try to find out why and expand our pool of possible dry docks, because it's right now Thames River has been fabulous. They've been a great partner, but relying on a single dry dock it's dangerous.
Go ahead. Ted, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, Mark, just to follow up on something you mentioned. So based on the presentation and your discussion, this was already in the budget for $1.3 million, nearly $1.4 million, and we're experiencing and that was based on past experience, estimates based on past charges for this type of work. And when we got the bid came in at $1.9 million plus. So the difference between our initial budgeting and the request now is driven by the fact that the market has simply gone higher in costing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We use all the historical data from previous dry docking. We break everything down into subcomponents and look at previous costing, but it's still elevating. And the difference between the tender and our budget is outlined in the staff summary in those 8 items.
So is there a feel for what the distance in time was between our prior experience that we used to base the budget and when we got the bids in? And the reason why I'm asking is because there's going to be another gap of time between when we got the bids in and when we actually get the bill. So we can probably expect that at the end of the day, the bill is going to be higher than we think it's going to be, which I think past experience certainly supports.
We used average data from within the past 2 years. It's not just on the Eagle itself, but on the other subsequent docking periods, and also including Thames Shipyard. It's a very fluid situation with all the different shipyards. I haven't seen a cap. It continues to rise, and we hope to be in a really good position on change orders. We've really tightened everything up and making sure everything is incorporated into the spec. However, you still have the unknown once you get the vessel out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like an unsolvable problem, except for taking prior experience and then automatically adding a multiplier to the cost to come up with what we think the market is doing right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like that multiplier is 40%. Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve the procurement?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Gavin, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Randy, aye.
All right, it's been approved.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item we have is a request for authorization for additional service expense for our Asset Guardian software from we get through Integrato. Mark, are you taking this, or is this Zach?
I'll bring Zach Lawrence over.
Good morning again. So the purpose of this is to request the board to authorize the general manager to purchase TAG Mobi additional services from Integrato LLC for a total cost of $101,640. The Asset Guardian, as we call it, TAG, is the preventive maintenance program used by the Steamship Authority to track and plan maintenance items throughout the vessel and terminal assets. The annual cost for the agreement is $75,600 for 116 users. Last year, the cost was $71,220 for 109 users. This service year, TAG has made a change and is charging for new TAG Mobi Advanced Resource Management and Field Service add-ons. The purchase of this additional service allows the Steamship Authority to continue to use the project contract number field, which we currently use to group our major repair and dry dock work orders. The cost of this additional service is $14,040. The second change is the addition of new TAG Mobi Smart Assistance Plan Enterprise for $12,000 per year. This additional service includes 4 support tickets every month with a maximum of 2 hours of support per ticket. Without this plan, support time charges are $225 per hour. So 4 tickets at 2 hours each would equal $1,800 per month or $21,600 per year. We have spent approximately $25,000 on support tickets in previous years. And so the net cost to the authority of both add-ons based on the previous year's support tickets cost would be approximately $1,040. So our recommendation would be for the board to authorize the general manager to purchase the TAG Mobi additional services from Integrato LLC for a total cost of $101,640.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Gavin, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
All right, it's been approved. Next item.
Next item is request for authorization to amend the annual one-year subscription renewal of the Granicus, the targeted messaging service. And Stephen Coleman, our Director of IT, will present this one.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm here to request that the board authorize the general manager to pay $77,700 for the revised purchase price of an annual one-year subscription renewal of Granicus targeted messaging service with Granicus at Carasoft of Reston, Virginia, subject to the GSA contract 47QSWA 18D008F. In January, I came to the board and renewed the Granicus service contract for $124,000 thereabouts. It's actually $124,500. Recently, trying to gain insight in regards to the volume of SMS messages that were sent out for the purposes of pricing another product specific to the IDEA reservation system. The Granicus representative informed me that we had exceeded our 5 million message quota by approximately 3 million messages over the course of 2024, 2025. Even though Granicus is not going back retroactively for payment, they would like payment forward. So the $77,700 is the difference between the $5 million messaging service and the $8 million messaging service that we utilize presently. There is a graph, I'm not sure if you have that at your disposal, but it shows you the trend for the communications. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 million messages. I'll take any questions the board may have.
What are the messages?
I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, I couldn't hear you.
That's all right. What are the messages that you are sending?
Oh, these are email messages and SMS messages.
Okay.
About trip schedule cancellations, diversions, delays, things of that nature.
Ted, you had a question?
I think it may have just been answered. I was going to ask what the content of the SMS messages was and if this covers all SMS communication. So trip information, wait list, matches, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Gavin, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
All right, it is passed. We're on to old and new business at 11:50 a.m.
Okay, the only new business we have is we want to just do a discussion of, we have the Woods Hole is going to be going in for dry dock next year, early next year. And one of the things we're looking at, we've been talking with Mark Hamilton about, is we don't have the ability to side load passengers on the Woods Hole. All the passengers have to come out of the transfer bridge. So,
Excuse me. Hey, Alex, can you turn your mic on?
Oh, sure. Oh.
Hello.
The last item is to talk about side loading modifications in the Woods Hole. She's going into dry dock early next year. And currently, we cannot load passengers from the side. They have to go over the transfer bridge, which really isn't not necessarily the safest way to do things, or the most convenient or the most efficient. So we want to look at putting doors in on the side of the boat so we can load passengers from the side, and Mark Amundsen has a lot of details on that.
Yeah, well, this also is going to give us, in an emergency situation, if we ever have a problem, a fire in the car deck, that we have a safe evacuation methodology for getting people off at the berth. So we really think that this is an important program to move forward, and will also assist us in our daily operation of getting people, off and out of the vehicle's way while unloading standard in various locations.
And this doesn't require any action on the board. It's just this will be in the RFQ when we send it out for the Woods Hole Dry Dock?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Any other old or new business?
No, that's it.
All right. At this time, then, we'll open it up for public comment.
Mark, if you want to take to the microphone. If anyone online has public comment, you can hit the raise your hand icon and we'll get to you in due course.
Thank you. I'm Mark Snyder, and I'm delighted to see there are 2 Marks at the table. This is very unusual to have 3 Marks in one room. I appreciated Mr. Jeffrey's comments earlier about the excursion fares and the question of how this is balancing out. And from my observations, the Steamship Authority's traffic has been flat for over 10 years, and the only area of growth has really been the excursion fare car traffic. And since that covers, if I heard you correctly, Mr. Rozum, about 27% of the cars fare, it means that every other fare is subsidizing that rate. And I know this is a very sensitive issue because islanders rely on it, but my question is, shouldn't the Steamship Authority be exploring alternatives to encourage people not to take their cars so that you aren't forced to build new $30 million vessels to subsidize a fare that is causing you to lose lots of money and creating freight raises and regular car traffic increases that are flat? And I don't see any initiatives to do that. So I do know in Nantucket, one of the popular things is you can take the fast ferry over and then rent a car at the High Line, which makes it a very appealing alternative to bringing your car across. The Vineyard has nothing like that. So my real question is, instead of just exploring rate increases, which is what inevitably is the conclusion, are there better options that should be creatively thought through now to change habits and not just increase rates?
Thank you, Mark. It's a great comment, and it's one of the things we want to look at with our capital projects steering committee is how do we better plan for the future? I know I've talked to some of the people in Woods Hole who suggested having better transportation planning, not just construction planning, and I think that's really important. One of the things we talked about down in DC is setting up our terminals more as intermodal locations where we have the Nantucket Regional Transit can come down. Martha's Vineyard Regional Transit has better space, so we really do have connections between our ferries, Highline, Sea Streak. All those can interline directly with a bus operator or with a rental car company. I know that Enterprise in Falmouth, and we have Avis on our site in Palmer. So there's rental car facilities on the land side. I know over in the Vineyard I believe it's Budget or Avis is right there at the dock, but that's something we want to build up. As we're planning our next generation of terminals, they really do need to be intermodal terminals, and we need to interline with the bus services. Because I believe here and over in Martha's Vineyard, the bus is free, so why we should be partnering with them and minimizing the cars. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll also add that I've never defended the Enabling Act and its fare box formula of how we operate, and I do think, and especially after our meetings last week in DC and especially with Congressman Keating, that as we put together not only that capital budget plan, but also start pulling out data of how much of an economic engine the steamship is for Barnstable, Nantucket, and Dukes County, that we can start making a case to the state legislature that why we're so important. And if we want to look at, everyone holds out the Washington State ferry system as the gold standard. They're heavily subsidized by the state as well as the federal grants they get. And maybe that's a better model moving forward.
Okay. All right, we'll go online. Amy, Cody?
Hi, yeah, Amy Cody from Chilmark. Thank you. I have a question for the board. In the Inspector General report from 12/18/25, it was a suggested requirement that all board members take or retake the boards and commission course that's offered by the OIG Academy within 60 days. So I'm asking, have the 4 members of the board successfully completed the OIG Academy boards and commission course?
I'd be happy to answer that, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for the question. So I know that my colleague, Mr. Rani, and I have both taken the course because we were in the same class. Open meeting law implications be damned. One of the things that the governance committee will be doing is outlining minimum training requirements for all of the board members, and the OIG Academy content, both on 30B as well as boards and commissions, will be part of those suggested training courses.
I'd also,
I'd
I'd also like to clarify, though, that the IG report, those were recommendations and not requirements. So,
I said.
So,
I said suggested requirements. Okay. So I do understand that they were suggested recommendations, but they were also under suggested requirements. So I guess my question right now is, for Jeffrey and Jones, have you taken the course or retaken the course?
I've not retaken. I've taken the course multiple times, but I've not retaken it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nat Trumbull.
You're on mute still.
Nat, you're muted. Okay, I'm going to bring over Beth O'Connor while we wait on that. Beth?
Yeah, sure. Hi. I have a question. We've been asking since February for understanding of where the spend is on the reservation system. And I understand that was deferred to the capital budgets now, but we still don't have it. And I have to say, I'm pretty shocked that the Steamship Authority, without approval or is just sending a contingent to Scotland to look at it. That, to me, that's a series of Zooms. You can get their org chart, you can get their training docs, you can even probably get online training sessions that they offer their staff, samples of. But to send a whole contingent to Scotland, I mean, not for nothing, international pricing this summer is up 27% of flights alone. I don't see that in any budget. I don't see anybody asking any questions about that. Do we know how much that's going to cost us? And when can we see the spend on the reservation system?
So, Beth, the spend on the reservation system's been presented every month at the IT steering. I'll be had to, offline after, jump on a call with you and go over it with you if you would like. Send you an invite.
I can look at those packets. I think I have those packets.
Yeah,
we show
what the budget is, what we actually spend, how we're going to realize the expense, how the cash flow is going to go. So there's and if there's something that we're missing, I'd be glad to talk to you about it.
Okay, I will look at those packets and to see the spend on it and the idea travel, which wasn't contemplated at the beginning, and now they're coming every month, which does sound like a good thing. I know there was a BC trip. Now there's a contingent going to Scotland. Again, I would be shocked that this cannot be done remotely, especially Scotland. So it would be very interesting to understand better who's approving these expenditures. Thank
We
you.
can talk about that. We can talk about that at the IT Executive Steering Committee.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Q. Nat, are you with us?
Alex Kryska at last month's board meeting asked Attorney Keneally for an on-time review of the offshore tug and transportation OTT application to carry freight between Nantucket and New Bedford. The OTT application has been under review by the Steamship Authority for more than a year. May I ask for an update on the OTT application?
Yeah, the OTT, their boat just passed dry dock last month, and it just arrived back into New Bedford, I believe it was last week or the week before last. So they still need to do quite a bit of infrastructure work at their dock. They still need to get an arrangement with the Port of New Bedford. We are meeting with them, and I think in another week or so we're going to be meeting with them, and we'll be bringing the status update to the Port Council at the next Port Council meeting. So we are moving forward with that, but it's been slow because the vessel has not been here, but we definitely do want to move forward with that. So we're meeting internally here with Gordon Carr, and then we'll be meeting with OTT, and then bringing that to the Port Council next month.
Thank you. I have a second question, and this relates to the steamship's use of biofuel. And my understanding, based on an email from Mark Admonson, is that the Steamship Authority is not planning to purchase biofuel for the island home for the remainder of this year. And my question is, could the Steamship Authority please identify a new source of biofuel for the island home if your current fuel supplier cannot provide it?
Okay, just to update everyone, the last year we did a pilot program with the island home using RD99. The product became available in Providence, Rhode Island, which is very truckable to our terminals here in Woods Hole. Now, this year we got notified by our supplier that it was no longer available, and so it was only available down in New York City. The cost to bring that up, it would be a very high cost. In regards to biodiesel, we have not done any background check because it's different than RD99. We went through a complete inspection program with all the OEMs and the equipment manufacturers to see if the fuel is compliant with the engines, and then did our test run to verify the fuel handling. So we were not in a position to do to recommend any other fuel at this time. We're very interested in the future, as we believe the RD99 is a great product. It's just a matter of, we've just had a major blip with fuel, and it's not just on the price, it's about the availability. So that's our current status.
And Leon Braithwaite. Leon, you're muted. I'm shouting like you can hear.
There we go. I just want to thank Alex for the meeting today. I thought that the presentation of the General Manager's report, including the federal, state grants and marine and everything, the way it was done, was very informative and very transparent to what's going on at the steamship at this time. I just wanted to compliment you on the presentation for today's meeting. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what I got.
All right. I'd like to entertain a motion now to go into executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authority's meeting in executive session on May 19th, 2026, and to review and discuss the authority's strategies with respect to litigation, security, and the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate, because public discussions of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's security and its negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include Eben Elias et al. Versus Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket Steamship Authority, civil action number 2572 CV00492, to discuss the procurement and deployment of cybersecurity software and related services from SHI International Corporation and the strategies with respect thereto, the purchase, lease, or value of real property in Hyannis, Massachusetts, and the purchase, lease, or value of real property in Falmouth, Massachusetts. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purposes for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public. Again, may I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. May I have a second? Mr. Gavin, will you second? Mr. Jones made the motion before you.
I will second.
All right. May I have a roll call vote?
Gavin, aye.
Jeffrey, aye.
Randy, aye.
All right. We are adjourned.
Want to come back in 10?
10 minutes. Ted, dial back in.